Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a two-game NBA slate for you that starts at 7:30 Eastern. We have two interesting games filled up in Milwaukee and Phoenix and the Lakers. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Also, make sure to check out Discord and links below and YouTube members. If you're a YouTube member, you get access to all my write-ups and stuff in the each day for the different things that I do. And I don't make videos for all the things I do write-ups for, so you'll get more sports from that. I'll also probably put some picks for a sportsbook as well over there. So let's make sure to check those things out. With that said, let's get into the slate. So we're going to start with our injury news here. We have James Harden is out. We have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal is doubtful. Jared Vanderbilt is out, and then Chris Middleton for the Bucks is in a minutes limit. So do keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and start with our point guards here. So Damian Lillard, he needs 45 fantasy points to 5x here. He's overall in the 95 to 10,500 range last season. So he's slightly underpriced here at 9,000. Obviously, he's with a new team, so we can't be certain about what to expect here, but he still feels like a good option, though he's going to have to give shots to Giannis. With that said, Drew Holiday was solid with Giannis, and I expect that Lillard will hold his own fantasy-wise, and I think Lillard will be fine and stay up at this value, but we'll have to wait and see for a couple games to play out to make certain, but I still think he's a valuable option on the slate, though he's not a favorite option, but he's good. Looking at Tyrese Maxey here for Philly, he needs 37 fantasy points to 5x here. Without James Harden, he's going to get more usage, and DK did boost his salary as a result of this. But a 30 to 40 fantasy point game is definitely likely here, maybe a little bit more even. So he has some potential here, but he does carry a little bit of risk due to the fact that his price has been boosted some because of Harden's situation. Then we're going to look at D'Angelo Russell. Now, D'Angelo is a core play for me. Now, he had a pretty good game in his first one. His floor is lower than I'd like it to be, but his price dropped a bit because of the first, even though his first game was a little inconsistent. He's been very good against Phoenix last season. He averaged 30 fantasy points a game, and he would probably benefit in fantasy from listening to LeBron on pick and rolls some. But overall, he's a solid fantasy potential, especially with his price being nice and valued here. Then we're going to look at Jordan Goodwin. Now, one thing about Jordan Goodwin is that if he draws a start today, then he'll be in play. But he's high risk, high reward. Obviously, he played only 16. He only needs 16 fantasy points here. Uh, his defensive stats also give him some upside. In game one, he played only 14 minutes though off the bench and scored 12 fantasy points, which is actually not that bad at this price range. But we definitely want him to have a bigger game, which he is capable of. But he just needs to get the start in minutes. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's got a good matchup as the Lakers are pretty weak defensively, and that gives him some utility here as well. He was very close to being a core play, but I have to wait and see what the situation for Phoenix is going to be when it comes to their starting lineup. Then we're going to look at Gabe Vincent for the Lakers. Now, he needs 18 fantasy points to 5x here. He's played 22 minutes in game one, but the Lakers bench was awful, and he didn't do much fantasy point-wise. His price dropped as a result of this, and with Booker and Beal likely out, he could get more run in this one. It has potential to be a good play here. He is high risk, high reward, but he definitely is capable, as he was really solid for Miami most of the season when he was starting, and so I think he has some good upside. Though he does have a low floor, and he definitely met that in game one. So you could also consider DeAnthony Melton at this position, but we'll have to wait and see for Philly what their starting lineup is going to look like for certain. But Melton does have a high floor and a low ceiling as well. Sorry, has a low floor and a high ceiling as well. So moving into shooting guards, obviously Maxey and D'Angelo Russell can also play at this position. But we're going to look at Austin Reeves here for the Lakers. He needs 28 fantasy points to 5x here. He's had a solid game in this one. In game one, his price dropped a few dollars for this game as well. His price makes him usable here, but he does feel like a decent play on a tiny slate, and he's priced fairly with a decent upside here. Obviously, he's sometimes a contrarian option, but he definitely has some potential in this game, and he has had some good 40 fantasy point games in the past. And so, while the matchup is kind of tough, he definitely has some upside in this game. Then we're going to look at Eric Gordon. Now, you could argue Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen here. Grayson Allen is likely going to start, but I do like Eric Gordon slightly better because he tends to take more shots. And both of them are kind of shooting plays. Obviously, they need to shoot and hit several threes and stuff to pay off. But Gordon has some potential in this one, and he was pretty solid last season, scoring in the 20 fantasy point range quite a bit. Though he is a little pricey, he is capable though, and he's a good value play, but not a great one. He's just a guy that you can use as a contrarian option off the bench, or if he, somehow does draw the start with both Beal and Booker out, he could get bigger boosts from that. Obviously, Grayson Allen could also play. I was just going to show you him for a second. He's a little bit riskier, I think, though he's virtually the same price, only $200 difference. He definitely has a low floor and a high ceiling as well. So I wanted to point out to avoid at this position Chris Middleton, as he is going to be on a minutes limit from Milwaukee, and including with the matchup, that definitely makes him an unlikely candidate to be a good fantasy perspective option. Looking at small forward here, we're going to start with LeBron. Now, LeBron has priced down some, but he only needs 43 fantasy points to 5x here. Though he scored 41 fantasy points in Game 1 of the season, his minutes will be monitored throughout the season, and it looks like DK is adjusting his price down some due to this. He still stuffs stats, and late in the game he may try to be a hero if it's close and they are behind, or if Anthony Davis disappears again. That said, he carries more risk due to the minutes being timid, but I do think he is capable of monster games occasionally, and he does have triple-double potential, and he does get a lot of rebounds and assists, so I think he's going to have some opportunity in this one, especially with Booker likely being out. But granted, that said, if this game gets out of hand early, then he would be a candidate to not get as many minutes, but he's definitely capable of a solid game here. But as you can see, somewhere in the 31 to 34 minute range is probably where he's going to fit today. And so I do think he's got some potential here, though he had 29 minutes in this first game. So keep that in mind. But his price being cheap definitely helps. Then we're going to look at Tobias Harris for Philly. Now, he's actually priced nice and fairly, though he is a little bit boosted as a Harden out. But he's always been a really solid option when somebody else on the 76ers are out, whether it be Harden, Maxey, or Embiid. And he's going to have some nice opportunity for some good run today as a result of that situation with Harden. He's actually pretty decently priced. He's probably one of the fairer priced 76ers on this slate. And so if I was going to only use one player from the 76ers, he'd probably be it. That said, he is very capable and has a good price point. He doesn't have a bad floor most of the time, and so I do think he's drawing some good potential, and he'll get plenty of minutes, so I do like his upside in this matchup. He definitely has potential to get into the 40s range. Austin Reeves and Eric Gordon can also play this position. You could also consider Josh Okogie and Tareem Prince off the bench or as a starter, and then Grayson Allen potentially as a starter as well. So moving into power forwards, we're going to look at Giannis first here. Now Giannis is one of the more expensive players on the slate at 10,200, but he's not going to be under 10,500 for the rest of the season likely, so get him while you can at this cheap price. And last season versus Philly, he scored an average of 59 fantasy points a game versus them, so he has all the opportunity in the world to have a big game here. And with Harden out, the only real risk here for the Bucks is if this game was to get out of hand, then he could potentially be limited. But overall, I think he's going to have a lot of upside in this game and has triple-double written all over him for this one. Like I said, he scored over 50 fantasy points in every game against Philadelphia last year, and so I look for him to. Why did I say Phoenix? I'm sorry. Philly last year, I don't think there's too much risk here. Even though he shares the court with Lillard, I think he's going to have all the fantasy points he can handle. And the way he works, he plays about 30 to 32 minutes a game, and he manages to stuff stats like crazy. And when he's off the floor, Lillard will be doing that. So I think he's got a great opportunity for a big game. Then we're going to look at Kevin Durant here. Now, he's still underpriced. I'm going to point out that he needs 44 fantasy points to 5x here. Though he hasn't scored as many fantasy points since joining the Suns as he did with the Nets last year. But with that said, he's going to have all the usage he can handle tonight if Beal and Booker are both ruled out. They are both doubtful right now. I look for him to have all the opportunity to have a huge game, and he's going to have to go head-to-head with LeBron, which tends to be something he enjoys. In last season, in one game, he scored 56 fantasy points against them. So I look for him to get invested in this game and hopefully go for a big type of game here. Though he has been somewhat inconsistent, with the Suns, I still think he's got a viable opportunity to have a huge game in this situation, and he's underpriced for the situation. LeBron is also available at power forward, as is Tobias Harris. You could also consider Bobby Portis and Tareem Prince at this position. Looking at our centers, this is where it's going to get a little bit difficult. Embiid is definitely in play here. He has absolutely monster game potential, especially with Harden out. He tends to have big games, but he does have a lower floor than you'd like for a price point. That said, he won't stay in this price range for too long. He'll probably jump over 11,000 for most of the season, and he definitely draws from really good potential in this one. He should play a lot of minutes, especially if he's going to be chasing around Giannis and going head to head with him. So I look for him to have a big game here, though he does feel riskier than Giannis does. Giannis can obviously also check out this position. Now, my other option for center is Nurkic for the Suns. Now, he needs 30 fantasy points to 5x. He was heavily involved versus Golden State, and he scored a nice double-double. That said, going up against Anthony Davis is a bit different than going up against Looney. And last season against the Lakers, he averaged just 21 fantasy points a game and 8 rebounds, and he didn't really score very well, only shooting 313. That said, he's going to have some opportunity in this one, and I think he's going to be a viable option, especially with Booker and Beal both out. He could get some more usage in this one, though he does carry some risk involved in that. You could also consider Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, and Anthony Davis at this position. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.